Hi, Phyllis.
Hi. Hey, I just want to let you know someone's going to need my help. Maybe in an hour, maybe not. So if I leave sometime after 1, I'm helping someone.
Okay. That sounds like a good cause.
Sometime after 1. Good morning, Toria and Ted. Oh, I have to turn off my
Uh-oh.
Good morning.
Don't forget to turn off YouTube, y'all. Hi, Diane. Hi, Danny. Hi, Sandra. Lou coming on, Phyllis. Control our mics.
Lou is coming on. If there's not a place for him, I'll give him my place because we'll have to leave. And I'll watch it regular on YouTube.
Okay. All righty. So we'll give some people time to come on, and people are starting to trickle in here.
Toria, have you heard from Rebecca?
Where is Rebecca? I haven't seen Rebecca.
I heard, well, Toria knows more than I do, I think, but
She all right, Toria?
she's moving back to California, right?
I'm moving back.
Oh, you're moving back.
You know, there's an interesting little story. You know, when she had to go back to California for her mother-in-law.
Uh-huh.
So you know that I'm trying to buy. We're in process of buying our old home back and moving back.
That's you in the process of buying your own home. I get things confused.
So to come to find out, where her mother-in-law is buried is literally 4 blocks or 5 blocks away from my house in California.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a very famous cemetery for Roy Rogers and Dale Evans.
Interesting. I remember them. I grew up with Roy Rogers and Dale Evans.
Wow. Well, the museum there, it was moved to another, after they both passed, they moved the museum to another state.
How are you feeling this morning, Sister Diane?
I'm feeling somewhat better. If I have to sign off, I'll let you all know.
You seem a little weak. I mean, your aura seems,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a pagan word or not.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Luke, can we say aura? I think somebody has their YouTube still on.
Yeah, I guess, if we apply it to that, but I think the word is based on a pagan deity's name, it is. Probably we could avoid it. That glow, or maybe, I think glow's okay.
Glow.
Yeah.
Well, how do you tell somebody that their glow seems off? I guess you don't.
You could talk about the subatomic particles that you are seeing around them are lessened. I don't know. I really don't know.
Okay.
You could just say, well, you're, looking a little under the weather.
Or cast down. Why is your face so cast down?
Yeah, good one. That's a translation.
Well, I'm not cast down, but I do have some pain. So
Downcast.
Down. Okay.
I think that's what I'm seeing in your face, Diane, is pain. I recognize that. Yeah.
Who was?
I hope you get better.
Thank you. Me too.
We've been praying.
Well, we'll wait a few more minutes for people coming in late, and they're still trickling in here. We have 3 spots open. Somebody just dropped. So come on in. Let's see if we can fill this up. There's who I'm waiting for. William. All right.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good
2
to be
more
here.
spots. 2 more spots. Come on, somebody.
Good study last night.
Can anyone see my? I guess so, because Phyllis saw my face. Does anyone see? Oh goodness. Does anyone see a change in the viewing of me?
You seem a little bit smaller than the last time we saw you. Tad agrees.
So it's smaller?
Your face is a little brighter too, though, because of the different camera. Because I know you're on a new computer. It's a little brighter.
Okay. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Oh, it's good. It's good.
Yeah, that's a good thing. You used to have kind of shadows all around your face.
Yeah, you look real dark.
The room just looked real dark when we would see you, and now it's all lit up.
Okay.
Diane, since you're talking to us right now, what is that picture above your head behind you?
That is a drawing done by my oldest daughter, who is now 58, when she was a young child, and it's a flower in the middle.
Oh, yes.
Petals.
That was a flower.
And I used to give them projects to do when it was raining or snowing and things like that. And I used to have oak tag paper and paint, and so that's what she did. And it's very old. It's about 54. It's about 54 years old.
Wow. I know you treasure it. Danny, show us your baby. Danny, don't put him away. What's his name?
Her name is Maggie. And she is 19 weeks old.
Oh, she is a cutie. What kind of dog is that?
The Havapoo. Part
Say it again. A what?
And part poodle. Havapoo. They say that they're a designer dog.
Yeah, there's lots of poodle dogs out there. Doodles. Lots of doodles.
Yeah, she's still housebreaking, so so we keep her in a little playpen, and since Gabrielle goes out on the Sabbath, I get to watch her, so it's distracting. But I do love her. She's a cutie. She's a cutie pie.
Oh, Daddy.
Yeah. Want to say hi? Say hi. What?
She wants to get to it.
She will lick your face off if you see her in person. She likes people. She does. We were out at Carom's yesterday, and everybody that walked by at Norton Commons just stopped, and she wanted to greet each and every one. She's the mayor. What?
She wants to play.
Yeah, she does.
Lots of energy. She wants to find something to tear up.
Yeah. Well, she's got this playpen here because of that. Because she'll just run around the house. She'll run upstairs. She'll run everywhere. And then she'll run and find a place to do her thing. And it's like, you want to go out? No.
I want to do it here.
Already did it. Thanks, Pop.
Oh. I don't know if we're still in the book of Romans or not.
Where you going?
I believe we're in Romans. We'll begin Romans 15 and 16.
Thank you, Diane. I'm
Thank you,
get
Diane.
that started. I just love you all so much. I love talking to you.
Just a few more minutes and we'll get started. Still people trickling in. You're muted, Phyllis. You're muted, Phyllis.
I'm just so excited. I want to say hi to all these people. You know, Sandra and Peggy and Toria and Jules Ann and Yami. I'm sorry we won't be able to see Ro and Yami. Yami says, get better, Diane. Bad communication here in Damascus.
Thank you.
Okay, don't, just as a reminder, we have to control our mics. If you turn your mic off yourself, you can turn it on and off. You have to turn it on and off yourself. I can't do it if you do it yourself. So if you choose to turn your mic off yourself, then you have to control your own mic. I can't turn it on for you. If I turn it off, I can turn it on and off for you. So it's your choice. Don't forget to turn off YouTube so we can cut down on the echoes and the feedbacks. If you have a mic, don't have your in speakers. Try to keep your speakers in your mic far apart. That'll cut down on the feedback as well. 1 minute and we'll get started. Okay, I'm going to get started now. We'll finish up our lesson in Romans. Glad to see everybody here. I'll keep an eye on you, Sandra. I see you're having problems there dropping out, but just come back on and I'll bring you back in. Hopefully it settles down. Shabbat Shalom. So we left off at Romans 15 last week. And so we have 2 chapters, and then we'll finish the letter to the Romans from Paul. And so chapter 15 and 16 will conclude. And then we'll just open it up, and I like to have an open format and so that we can discuss everything we've learned in Romans from chapter 1 all the way through it. Anything anybody wants to talk about, any questions anybody may have for any of the other body members, doesn't have to be directed at me all the time. You can ask Phyllis or Tad a question or whatever, or Danny, anybody. And so we'll open it up and try to have a long conclusion conversation at the end here, since we only have 2 chapters left. And hopefully, Yahusha opens up all our minds to understand the scriptures of truth this afternoon on this fine, joyous day of Yom Shabbat. Okay, so let's get started. Romans 15. We have one more opening. If anybody in the chat room or anybody out there wants to come into the chat room and join us, you can. There's one slot left. If you have questions in the chat room, if you put them in all caps, we can detect it and see it a lot faster, and try to hopefully help you and answer the question best we can. Okay, so Romans chapter 15. Anybody want to take that one? Go ahead, Tad.
Okay. But we who are strong ought to bear with the failings of the weak and not to please ourselves. Let each one of us please his neighbor for his good, to build him up. For even the Meshach did not please himself. But, as it has been written, the accusations of those who accused you fell upon me.
Okay, hang on. Okay, can anybody explain those couple verses to us that we just read? What's this trying to tell us here? Especially with the part that says, bear with the failings of the weak and not to please ourselves. Go ahead, Tad.
I have a feeling that it's somewhere along the line of, if they hated me, they'll hate you too. Somewhere along that same line, that whatever he did is going to come back on his Talmudim. I might be way off.
Go ahead, Toria.
I see it as he says that they are strong. So they are strong in their faith, they're strong in their walk, and that they, instead of worrying about themselves, they need to worry about those who are in need to be lifted up and to be strengthened in their walk.
Yeah, that's spot on. And Tad, you're in the ballpark spiritually. Okay, taking it to a little bit higher level, but not quite there. As far as I think the meaning here that we're supposed to be, we're getting from the Yahusha here on this is that if you're a mature believer, okay, and you're strong in your belief and you're mature and you understand things, stop worrying about yourself and start taking care of the babies. All right, so adults take care of the children, right, and the babes. All right, they can't take care of themselves. They're helpless. They'll perish without adult supervision. And so I think this is what this is kind of speaking of. And when you're strong, you're mature, a believer, ought to bear with the failings of the weak. That means look after them, be sympathetic to their immaturity, if you will, and not to please ourselves. So we're mature, we're founded, we have the proper foundation, and so forth and so on. Stop worrying about ourselves. We're where we need to be, and start taking care of the babes, the children, the beginners. Go ahead, Phyllis.
Mark, that reads right into something I put up on the chat, that if you're spending so much time focusing on studying and learning more, then you don't have time to teach the new people in the faith.
Yeah, I agree with you. Anybody else got any comments? That's kind of important, isn't it, really, as for us to realize that it's not about us anymore. Yeah, we're mature, we're in the body, we have the proper foundation, but how about our brothers and sisters that need our help? Shouldn't we begin to focus on them? What, like Sister Phyllis was just saying. All right. So I think that's a good, interpretation of what's being said here. But let each one of us please his neighbor for his good to build him up. See, start focusing on others. Take the focus off yourself and start focusing on others. Matter of fact, put them ahead of yourself. Let's us move to the end of the line and put the babes up front and start focusing on them. Right? That's a good place to be at the end of the line.
That could also deal with meat sacrificed to idols, and not if you're along the line where it doesn't phase you either way. I mean, you can eat it, but if your weaker neighbor is they're in that religiosity that, oh my goodness, you cannot eat that, then you don't, then that would kind of fall right in where it says, do not please yourself, but please your neighbor. So yeah, I mean, maybe that falls in there too.
Yeah, it absolutely does. A very good point. It's just like drinking a beer, right? If the babe thinks that's a sin, then don't drink it in front of him. Don't cause him to stumble. So yeah, absolutely. And just on that note, let me just add here real quick that this eating food sacrificed to idols. Okay, let's be real clear on that. Okay, the ones that are eating meat sacrificed to idols are worshiping these idols. Okay, so they're worshiping the idol. Then they're making a burnt offering to this idol with meat. Okay, and then they're sitting down and eating dinner at the dinner table of Hashatan with this sacrificed meat. And they're giving thanksgiving to Hashatan for this meat. Okay, what's going on? Okay, they're worshiping the idol. See? And so that's why we're not to eat the meat. You're not supposed to eat meat sacrificed to idols, because what it's pointing to is idol worship. It's all about idolatry, is what it's saying. If we're not partaking in the worshiping and we're not sitting down at the table with Hashatan and eating his dinner and drinking out of his cup, then that, we're not giving that idol any power over us. You see the difference? So if somebody would just say somebody would take and do this ritual to a mighty one, false mighty one, and the demons or Hashatan slips in there and takes that position, so you're actually worshiping him, all right? And so then they take some of that meat and they take it and they sell it on the marketplace. And you go in there and buy that meat unknowingly, that what they've done with that meat, and you sit down there and eat that meat and you give thanksgiving to Yahuwah and eat it. Is it clean for you? Yeah, it's clean. There's nothing there. It's like those monster drinks with the 3 scratches through it, that's 666, right? And they say they do a spell over it at their factory before they put it out on the market, and you drink that. You shouldn't drink them anyway, but just say you do. Are you worshiping that idol? Not really. It doesn't have any power over you because it's not real. Go ahead, Toria.
I know, being a vegetarian my entire life, I know a good example is eating halal. Muslims eat halal, so their products are all blessed upon. So is kosher. Kosher just means that a rabbi has blessed it. I mean, the way they do it now, though, I mean, it's not a person who stands there and does it, but it is done by a recording now. But that would be the same thing. Just because I can't read every product to see if it, how would I know? But I do know with the halal, I've had somebody tell me, oh, do you eat that? And I'm like, oh, well, it's not affecting me. So yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so if you're not taking place in the idol worshiping, okay, there's where the sin is. That's why I said don't eat food sacrificed to idols. Why? Because they're worshiping the idol. Then they're sitting down and eating the meat with Satan at his dinner table. See what I'm saying? If you're not doing the idol worship and you eat the meat that they did all their weird stuff over, it's no power over you because it's fake. It's not real. It's actually good and blessed by Yahuwah. And all you have to do is give thanksgiving to Yahuwah, and it's good food, man. He said it was. He ordained it. How can anybody make something unclean that Yahuwah claimed right or clean? You can't. You can't overturn Yahuwah's or his power, his will. Nobody can do that. Not even Satan. Go ahead, Tori.
I just thought about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Okay, so when they were, they were trying to get them to eat the meat, and they said that's, they're vegetarians, they don't eat it, and that's why he said, just give us, a certain amount of time. Look at us, look at them, tell us if we're healthy or not. But the point is, they were eating the vegetables and the fruits and everything else that were, obviously a dedication to their gods. So it wasn't about the meat being given as a sacrifice, or even if it was blessed over by their gods or whatever. They were still eating the other food, which would have been the same thing. So that's a perfect example.
Yeah, and I think it goes just a little bit deeper than that, whereas they were the king's menu, okay, what had unclean food on it, pork and shrimp and lobster and stuff, right? And so when they refused to eat that unclean food that was on the king's menu, and they desired just to eat vegetables and fruit, they became healthier. It wasn't because they weren't eating meat, but it was because they weren't eating that unclean food that Yahuwah said is not food. They stayed away from that. Why would Yahuwah tell us to stay away from something and not eat it? Well, I think he knows something we don't know. It must not be good for our bodies to eat that particular food. So he says, don't eat that, right? So that's why they became healthier and looked better, rosy in the face and everything. They looked healthy, better than the ones that were eating the unclean food. See what I'm saying? Because for one thing, that jumps out there, so they were obeying Yahuwah. So if you obey Yahuwah, good things happen too, right? But yeah, vital points. Anybody else got anything on that one? So we got to be clear on that. Not eating food to idols. Okay, it means because they're worshiping idols when they do it. That's the big problem. You see it? So if they offering it to idols, that means they're worshiping idols. There's the big problem. That's why it becomes not a good thing to do. The food itself is not bad because Yahuwah already declared it food and declared and ordained it as food and said it was good to eat. He gave it to us to eat. Nothing wrong with eating the food. It's what they're doing in their mind is they worship idols. And so now all of a sudden, eating this dinner or this meat or whatever it is associated with idol worshiping. There's the big problem. That's why you're not supposed to eat food sacrificed to idols, because you're idol worshiping. That's a direct violation of like the first 3 commandments, ain't it? Definitely number 2. All right. Okay, Dad, let's roll then.
Okay, picking up in verse 4. For whatever was written before was written for our instruction, that through endurance and encouragement of the scriptures, we might have the expectation. And the Yahuwah of endurance and encouragement give you to be of the same mind toward one another,
Okay, hang on.
according to
What's that mean, Dad? And the Yahuwah of endurance and encouragement give you to be of the same mindset. Oh, up here. Endurance and encouragement of the scriptures, we might have the expectation. What does that mean? What's the expectation mean?
As far as I understand it, the expectation is knowing that his blood has saved us and everlasting life.
Yeah, that's right. Expectation of immortality, right? Or immortal bodies. Okay, good. Let's go. Oh, go ahead, Danny.
What does the where am I? The Yahuwah of endurance mean? That doesn't connect in my little brain. The Yahuwah of endurance?
Anybody want to answer that? Go ahead, Toria.
He's forever, endurance, continual.
Yeah, I agree with that. Continual endurance doesn't end, endures forever and ever type deal.
He's unmoving.
Yeah. What's our endurance as followers of the people in the body? What's our endurance? Yahuwah's everlasting and everlasting. His endurance ain't going to end. And encouragement give you to be of the same mind toward one another. So what is our endurance? Anybody?
That we endure until the end in our faith, hope, and belief.
And
Salvation.
And anybody? Obedience.
Oh.
Our endurance is our obedience. We stay obedient to the end. Though, how does Scripture say that? Doesn't it say those who endure to the end will be delivered? It's our obedience, man. We got to stay obedient, loyal to our husband. We don't go cheating on our husband. That's what got us in all this trouble in the first place. All right. Did they answer you okay, Danny? Are you in agreement with that?
It's not that I disagree with it. It still just doesn't. I mean, I don't. I'm trying to put it in English words like, and the I am ever present, always been of endurance. I mean, the statement still doesn't connect in my head. You know?
I think before we were, he was. So that's where his endurance is, through his creations before we were created. It's a continued endurance.
Yeah, but that doesn't fit in the passage, though. I'm just trying to get the statement and have that compartmentalized in my head, and it just doesn't fit in there. I mean, I'm sure that there is a perfect explanation somewhere. It's just, for me, it's not connecting. I mean, and that happens with me sometimes. So
Luke can help you with that, Danny.
okay.
Yeah, I might be able to help. It's in the sentence itself. If you look at the rest of the sentence, it's talking about the mind of Yahuwah, who you share his mind, and then you've got the rest of that verse here. It says, let's see, it's talking about the instructions that were. That next sentence is also included because whatever was written before was written for our instruction, that through endurance and encouragement of the scriptures. Who wrote the scriptures? Well, the prophets were speaking in inspired words. So Yahuwah inspired the scriptures for our instruction. So it's all kind of connected together, and that through endurance and encouragement of the scriptures, we might have the expectation. So we're on solid ground at all times. I don't know if that helps.
Okay.
Sometimes the English fails us.
Okay. Well, I mean, I understand the concept. The wording, the way still doesn't get there though. But I'll be all right.
Okay, let me see if I can shed a little bit more light on it, Danny. Then go ahead, Tad. Hey, if I don't see you guys, turn on your mic if you can. Okay, if I don't see you.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, like Danny said, it might be the wording, and if you paraphrase that and put in something like, "And Yahuwah who lives forever," it might make a little bit more sense.
Okay, and let me throw my 2 cents in there. Okay, so endurance, the ability to withstand hardship or adversity, and so relating to the endurance of Yahuwah here, he is going through an act or instance of enduring or suffering endurance of many hardships. Why? Because of our disobedience and our wickedness in our nature, what we do. That's hard on him, especially when we go whoring on him, right? So his endurance is to keep trustworthy, okay, to his promises given to humanity. And so his promises is what? To forget not to remember our sins no more, to forgive us and to give us everlasting life. So he's enduring all these hardships and this adversary stuff, all this suffering that he's doing because of us, what we're doing to him and betraying him in order for his word to remain true. Let Yahuwah be true and all men liars. Why? So that through his endurance, we can be delivered, man, through his everlasting, long-suffering love for us. We will be delivered at the end. Otherwise, are we worthy of that, of his attention, of his love? We're really not worthy of it, but through his endurance, in order that he be true, everything in his word comes out of his mouth is true. He endures all the hardships that we cause him. So that's his endurance in love. His endurance is in love for us, man, through all our disobedience and the stuff. So that's my 2 cents. Maybe that'll help a little bit, Danny.
Yeah. Now that I'm reading it, it's talking about his endurance. All right. So I would have reworded it. I mean, of course, who am I? But I would have said something along the lines like Yahuwah's endurance. So okay, so now it fits perfectly okay in there. I just didn't get it. I mean, it's reminiscent of when I was in aircraft maintenance school. I mean, the instructor literally had to take a prop governor and throw it across the room to get to get it in my head. So yes, I got it now. Thank you.
Okie dokie. And our endurance, like we said, is obedience. So, all right, let's go ahead. Anybody else? Go ahead, Ted.
Okay, because I didn't finish verse 5, I'm going to start at 5 again. And the Yahuwah of endurance and encouragement give you to be of the same mind toward one another, according to Mashiach Yahusha, that with one mind and one mouth you might praise the Yahuwah and Father of our Master, Yahusha Mashiach. So accept one another, as Mashiach also did accept us, to the esteem of Yahuwah. And I say that Yahusha Mashiach has become a servant of the circumcised for the truth of Yahuwah, to confirm the promises made to the fathers, and for the nations to praise Yahuwah for his compassion, as it has been written. Because of this, I shall profess of you among the nations, and I shall sing to your name. And again it says, rejoice, O nations, with his people. And again, praise Yahuwah, all you nations. Praise him, all you peoples. And again, Yashayahu says, there shall be a root of Yishe, and he who shall rise to reign over the nations. On him the nations shall set their expectation.
Okay, hang on. All righty. So who is the root of Yeshai? Yeshai. Who is that? Anybody? Go ahead, Ted.
Well, King Daud, but literally Yahusha.
No, that's not who it is. Go ahead, Toria.
I probably shouldn't be answering it because I have heard it. I was thinking Jesse.
That's who it is.
Yeah.
So it's the father of Daud. They call him Jesse. And he who shall rise to reign over the nations, on him the nations shall set their expectation. Of course, that's Yahusha. Okay, so Jesse is the father of Daud, or the great grandson of Boaz and Ruth. Ruth being a Moabite, considered to be a Gentile. Okay. And so this Moabite woman, Ruth, who was a Gentile, we find to be in the line of Yahusha. Isn't that interesting? Okay. So is this how the Gentiles are engrafted into the olive tree? Through the line of Ruth? This is how we became engrafted into Yisrael and made possible for us to be engrafted, being wild olive branches into the natural olive branches. Anybody got any thoughts on that? Was Boaz an Israelite? Yes. Was Ruth? No. She was engrafted in several ways. Well, she married Naomi's son. That brought her in, did it not? Through marriage. Go ahead, Toria.
I believe through her, it's her obedience and her endurance of faith, which what grafted her in also.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do y'all think about that? It's just with Ruth being from a different, from a Gentile, from Moabite woman, which was really kind of like the arch enemy of the Israelites in a little bit way, you know. But is this our path in as Gentiles? Is this their path in through her seed, through her offspring? It's how we're able to be engrafted. I think it's a possibility. Go ahead, Toria.
I believe so, and I believe it shows the work we have to put in to be engrafted. It's not just a showing; it's putting in the work till the end. I think that's why we have to endure till the end, because one can turn from their way pretty quickly. So if you're not obedient till the end, then you don't have any endurance.
Yeah, very good. Anybody else got any thoughts on that one? Okay, Tad, let's go continue on.
Okay. And the Elohim of expectation fill you with all joy and peace in believing, that you overflow with expectation by the power of the Ruach HaKodesh. Now I myself am persuaded concerning you, my brothers, that you too are filled with goodness, complete in all knowledge, able also to admonish one another. But I have written more boldly to you in part, as reminding you, because of the favor given to me by Yahuwah, to be a servant of Yahushua Mashiach to the nations, with the priestly duty of bringing the Besorah of Yahuwah, so that the offering of the nations becomes acceptable, set apart by the Ruach HaKodesh.
Oh man, can somebody explain that, please? So, very interesting here that so the offering of the nations becomes acceptable, set apart by the Ruach HaKodesh. To be a servant of Yahuwah Mashiach to the nations with the priestly duty of bringing the Besorah of Yahuwah. That's pretty clear. So that the offering of the nations becomes acceptable, set apart by the Ruach HaKodesh. When you're thinking about that one, go back up there where it says, able also to admonish one another. So now myself am persuaded concerning you, my brothers, that you too are filled with goodness, complete in all knowledge, also able to admonish one another. What's that mean? What does admonish one another mean? Okay, so that would be like warn, advise, or reprimand each other, correct each other, if you will, with love. Okay, and so with that in mind, go back down there to be a servant of Yahushua Mashiach to the nations with the priestly duty of bringing the Besorah of Yahuwah, so that the offering of the nations becomes acceptable. What does that mean? Set apart by the Ruach HaKodesh.
Mark, would that be the nations moving away from their pagan ideology and thought process and coming into this understanding of the Besorah? Then that makes it acceptable, because before that, it's an abomination what they were doing. It was never accepted. He didn't hear their prayers. You know, they were worshiping idols and, you know, offering food to idols and stuff like that. So it's a turning. That it's a form of maybe a foreshadowing of a repentance by the nations coming into the truth, and then it becomes acceptable by Yahuwah.
Yeah, I think you're all over it. Well, anybody got any easier way of saying what William just said? Go ahead, Toria.
I don't have any easier way to say it, but I was just noticing when he's saying that he, through his priestly duties, was bringing the word, the Besorah of Yahuwah, so that the offerings of the nations, because they were only able to offer certain things, I believe, compared to those of who were of the temple of priests, who were able to go in and offer what we couldn't offer. So our offering became acceptable as believers.
Yeah, you're all over it too. Both of y'all are all over it. Okay, so just let me clarify or make it more simple, okay, is when we first believe, okay, we confess and we repent, right? And so then we're repenting of being wrong and being lawbreakers. So now we have a change of mind, so we begin to be obedient. We begin to be righteous. And so with that act of a change of mind and that act of obedience or righteousness, Yahuwah sees that and he takes over. And he says, okay, my righteousness is going to be your righteousness because you begin to come back to me. You woke up. Okay, and so he honors that first step toward righteousness or obedience from us. And he takes over and helps us from there so that we remain in him and stay righteous. But now our full righteousness, our endurance of obedience is through his righteousness. So what is the offering? Well, an offering is like a sacrifice, right? So our obedience becomes our offering. It's reasonable. Well, how does Scripture say that? It's a reasonable worship, right? And so the change of mind brings on our beginning into stepping back into righteousness, admitting that we were wrong, and so our obedience becomes our sacrifice or our offering to Yahuwah. Okay, so the offering of obedience, okay, or righteousness of the nations becomes acceptable to Yahuwah through Yahushua HaMashiach and through their confession and repentance. Everybody's agreement with that? I mean, it's kind of like what they said. I mean, they were all over it, right? And I'm just saying the same thing, but in a little different way. Anybody else got anything to add to that? Lou, are you agreeing with all that? You spot on? Okay. All right, guys. If there's no other comments or anything, anybody want to expand? If not, Ted, let's go ahead.
I think we left off in verse 16. To be a servant of Yahushua Mashiach to the nations, with the priestly duty of bringing the Besorah of Yahuwah, so that the offering of these nations become acceptable. Oh, I guess I did read that. Set apart by the Ruach HaKodesh. Therefore, I have cause for boasting in Mashiach Yahushua in the things pertaining to Yahuwah. For I shall not presume to speak of anything except what Mashiach has worked out through me in word and deed to make the nations obedient, in power of signs and wonders, in power of the Ruach of Yahuwah, so that from Jerusalem and round about to Illyricon, I have completed the professing of the Besorah of Mashiach.
Hang on a minute, Ted. Okay, so you guys see right there where it said that then where is that? Oh, and for I shall not presume to speak of anything except what Meshach has worked out through me in word and deed to make the nations obedient. You see that? So you can take that obedient right back up to the offering of the nations becomes acceptable. Okay, that kind of confirms that we're on course with what we were saying. All right, everybody. Okay, Dad.
And so I was ambitious to bring the Besorah where Mashiach had not been named, lest I should build on another man's foundation. But as it has been written, to whom it was not announced concerning him, they shall see, and those that have not heard shall understand. This is why I was often hindered from coming to you. But now, no longer having a place in these parts, and having a longing to come to you for many years, I shall come to you when I go to Spain. For I expect to see you on my journey, and to be helped on my way there by you, if first I be somewhat filled with your company. But now I am going to Jerusalem to serve the set-apart ones. For it pleased those from Macedonia and Achaia to make some contribution for the poor among the set-apart ones who are in Jerusalem.
Okay, hang on. Hold up. Okay, so here where he says, but now I am going to Jerusalem to serve the set-apart ones. Remember when we read about that in Acts? Okay, so he got there and he started getting in a lot of trouble, didn't he, in Acts? So see, this shows then that Romans was written before he went to Jerusalem and got into all that trouble, before he went to Rome. See that? So we can see that because we've just got done studying Acts and his journeys. Okay. And so this pleased those from Macedonia and Achaia to make some contribution for the poor among the set apart ones who are in Jerusalem. What is that referring to, you guys? Is he taking them bags of gold and money? Go ahead, Tad.
That refers to the tithe or food. We'll find out here in just a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that's true. That's what it's talking about. Because there was, you want to leave us, Diane? You feeling sick? Okay, we all pray you get better. Thanks for coming. I know it was a struggle. Okay, yeah, and so there was a famine in the land. Okay, and so they were sending food to the poor. So there must have been a really inflation, right? The food that was there must have been very costly. And the poor couldn't afford it. Okay. So, all right, let's go.
For they were pleased, and they are their debtors. For if the nations have shared in their ruach-like things, their duty is also to serve them in material things. Having completed this, then, and having put my seal on this fruit of theirs, I shall return through you to Spain. And I know that when I come to you, I shall come in the completeness of the blessing of the Besorah of Mashiach. But I urge you, brothers, through our Master Yahushua Mashiach, and through the love of the Ruach, to strive together with me in prayers for me to Yahuwah, that I might be delivered from those in Yehuda who do not believe, and that my service for Yerushalayim be well received by the Kodashim, that I might come to you with joy through the desire of Yahuwah, and be refreshed together with you. And the Yahuwah of peace be with you all. Amen.
Okay, now that kind of sounds like Paul knew what was his fate was going to be when he arrived in Jerusalem. That I might be delivered from those in Yehuda who do not believe. Seemed like he had a clue that he was getting ready to walk into some fire, right? So it seemed like Paul knew that he's going to be in some trouble when he gets to Jerusalem, and where it says, "And Yahuwah of peace be with you all." Who's that? Yahuwah of peace. What's that mean? Anybody?
Meshach.
Yeah, Prince of Peace, Meshach. And the Prince of Peace is with you, Yahuwah of peace. So that right there shows us that Yahuwah and Yahusha are the same, one and the same. Okay. There's little clues of that throughout Scripture. I mean, it is loaded with it. And so Yahuwah of Shalom, Yahuwah Shalom, right? Doesn't that mean Yahuwah of peace or Prince of Peace? Okay, so very good. This next one here, the last chapter, is really a good indication to us that this is a letter written to the Romans. It's not a book, as the Christianity tries to say it is. So we can pretty much tell that this is a closing of a letter here in chapter 16, or a valediction, if you will, valediction, a closing of the letter. And so the thing that stands out here in this last chapter is how many people he greets. So we're going to read about all these greetings. So this is proof that this is a letter. And then a final warning about the assembly of Hashatan. And then he just goes down there and closes it out with the secret of the ages, Mashiach in you, and talks a little bit about the Tanakh. And so it's a lot in this, but the big point here that we need to understand, and so that we understand what's going on here, is that this is the valediction of the letter, a closing of a letter. Okay, it's not a book. All right. So let's focus on that point as we read through it. Who wants to tackle this one? Toria.
Okay. And I commend you, and I commend to you Phoebe, our sister, who is a servant of the assembly in Cenchrea, that you receive her in Yahuwah, worthy of the set apart ones, and assist her in whatever thing she has need of you. For she has been a great help to many, including me. Great Priscilla of Oculus, my fellow workers in Mashiach Yahusha, who risked their own necks for my life, to whom not only I give thanks, but also all the assemblies of the nations, and the assembly that is in their house. Greet my beloved Epaphras, who is the first fruits of Achaia of Mashiach, to Mashiach. Greet Miriam, who worked very hard for us. Greet Andronikos and Junius, my relatives and my fellow prisoners, who are eminent among the emissaries, who also were in Mashiach before me. Greet Amplias, my beloved in Yahuwah. Greet Urbanus, who fellow workers in Mashiach, and Stachys, my beloved. Greet Apelles, the approved in Mashiach. Greet those who are of our Aristobulus. Greet Herodion, my relative. Okay, that's interesting. Greet those who are of Narcissus, who are in Yahuwah. Greet Tophina and Tophiosa, who work in Yahuwah. Greet the beloved Persis, who worked very hard in Yahuwah. Greet Rufus, chosen in Yahuwah, and his mother and mine. Greet Ascristos, Philingon, Hermas, Patrobas, Hermes, and the brothers who are with them. Greet Philologos and Julia, Nereus and his sister, and Olympus, and all the Kodashim who are with them. Greet one another with a set-apart kiss. The assemblies of Mashiach greet you. Now I call upon you, brothers, watch out for those who cause divisions and stumbling, contrary to the teaching which you learned, and turn away from them.
Okay, hang on a minute. Okay, isn't that interesting that he's bringing up divisions and stumbling after he greeted all those people? Isn't that interesting? Why is that? Because even though there's all these assemblies, then and all these components that make up each assembly, and then all these people, okay, what he's saying is don't be divided. We're one body, many components making up the one assembly. Okay, so this is not a division because there's a lot of people. This is multiplication. This is an increase in the body of Yahuwah, or the reign of Yahuwah. Okay, and he's warning them, okay, don't watch out for people that want to divide and take over for their own self-esteem, their own self-ambitions. So I'm saying there's a warning here. No division is allowed in the body. Do not be divided. This is a very interesting interjection. Danny, can't hear you, bro. Nothing? Okay. Everybody seeing that? Very interesting interjection here, really, if you think about it. Now I call upon you, brothers, everybody who just greeted, right? Watch out for those who cause divisions and stumbling. So would they not be among them? Absolutely, they're among them. Are they in the body of Yahushua? No. But they're around them. They're infiltrated. It's like a spy, sort of, who cause divisions and stumbling, contrary to the teaching which you learned, and turn away from them. Don't let them divide you. Don't let them lead you astray to follow after them and after other mighty ones, like the J-man. Interesting, isn't it, that's there? There's a lot of depth to that, and we can go on and on. But now we need to see what if these divisions do divide. Okay, what is the division? What have they become? Well, the assembly of Hashatan. Now, so let's read about that. Go ahead, Tad.
You mean Toria?
I mean Toria, sorry.
Okay. For such ones do not serve our master Yahushua Meshach, but their own stomach, and by smooth words and flattering speech they deceive the hearts of the innocent.
Okay, hold up. Let's just talk about that assembly of Satan there a little bit. Right off the get-go, he says that these people that are divided into divisions, okay, they can still be in the assembly, but not a component of the body, okay? Right off the get-go, for such ones do not serve our master Yahushua. Right off the get-go, he's saying these people are not my servants. They're among you, but they're not mine. They're in the assembly of Satan. There's only two choices, people. We're either in the assembly of Yahushua or we're in the assembly of Hashatan. You're either in the camp of the children of darkness or you're in the camp of the children of light. There's no other choice. So he says, for such ones do not serve our master Yahushua Mashiach, then who are they serving? There's only one other choice. They're serving darkness, Hashatan. It's the only choice. Even if they call on the name of another mighty one, a fake God, Satan hears that. He slips right in there into that slot and says, yeah, come on, worship me. I don't care what you call me. Just give me that worship that belongs to Yahuwah. Okay? Very powerful that he injected that in here into the closing of his letter, man. Where did he learn all that from? Where do you think he learned all that? Did he foresee that? Was that foreknowledge given to him by the Ruach, or did he experience something in his travels? Okay, go ahead, Tad.
Toria?
Go ahead, Tori. I'm sorry.
I actually have a thought. It came to my mind when you talk about they were family, they were friends of friends, they were intermingling in their circle, which we all walk that today with our own family. We have, like him, we have to guard ourselves, even though we have to be around family, friends of friends who are not believers. But we have to stand guard on what our obedience and our belief. And it says that they fill their bellies and for their own selves. I mean, that we see that every day with churches, their divisions. They fill their own bellies, but they're not giving what is needed to have that walk with Yahuwah. But that was just a thought I was thinking.
Yeah, and it's interesting too that you notice how many of his relatives he was greeting there in Rome. You know, he was greeting his cousins, his uncles and aunts, even his brother and his mother is involved in those greetings. Why? Who knows? He had a lot of family living in Rome, didn't he?
But I think that goes to also is you never stop praying for those. I mean, obviously your own children, we never, it's continual, but I mean, your mother, your father, your, you know, your relatives, it's something that we won't give up on until our last breath, that they see truth.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And that's why he still intermingles. He just has to be on guard.
Yeah, and he's also warning them too. You know?
Mm-hmm. which we do our own children. You know, we have to. I mean, I just did that last night with my son. He's going through some stuff, and I had to let him know, you know, these are warning signs. This is for you to wake up. You know, he's giving you an opportunity. Don't let it pass you by.
Yeah, and you're really bringing up a huge point. Really, if you really consider it. It says, and now I call upon you, brothers, watch out for those who cause division and stumbling contrary to the teaching which you learned. Turn away from. So who is that in our day? With us and our family?
Yeah.
Who would this pertain to?
The Christianity, friends who in the church.
False teachers, man. Exactly what it in our era, what it's talking about. Now I call upon you to watch out for those who cause divisions. That's the architects of denominations, right? The leaders in Christianity. And stumbling, they cause you to stumble because they don't even tell you the true name. They follow the J-man. They call him the J-man, right? That's stumbling, contrary to the teaching which you learned, which is what? The Basora of Yahusha. They're teaching you some other religion, you know, some other teaching that has nothing to do with the Basora of Yahusha. You know, it's paganism. They're teaching you how to worship other mighty ones, like Isabel did. Yeah, so that's the ones we have to watch out. Those are the ones who cause divisions in our era. There's only one body. There can't be 7. There can't be 300. There's only one. Doesn't matter how many components make up the body. There can be 30,000 components making up the body. That's irrelevant. What matters is how many bodies are there? How many assemblies? The body of Yahusha is the assembly. There's only one. You see? Doesn't matter how many components make up the one body. That's irrelevant. Okay, so very good points, Toria.
Just like also, I believe that's what they're doing today with trying to create a one world religion. They're trying to create that one body.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Hashatan is mocking Yahuwah. I think this woke thing that's going on now is mocking Yahuwah, who's waking up his last Natsarim. I think they're mocking us with this woke up agenda of perversion. Yeah, they know what's going on. You better believe they know what's going on. The councils of Hashatan or the assembly of Hashatan knows what's going on. Let me tell you, I'll show you something real quick. This really jumped out. Maybe if I can find it. Let's see. Where is that? Okay, here it is. So this is coming out of Revelations 2:24. And it says, and to you I say, and to the rest in Thyatira, as many as do not possess this teaching, they're talking about the teaching of Hashatan here now, and who have not known the depths of Shatan, as they call them. So the depths of Hashatan here is the same thing over here, where it's saying, contrary to the teaching which you learned and turn away from them. Okay, and so it's contrary to that teaching. So if it's contrary to the teaching of the Basora of Yahuwah, what has it have to be? The teachings of Hashatan. It's the only thing there is. Ain't nothing else. There's only two. Choose between Yahusha and Saint, and that's it. good and evil, light and darkness, ain't nothing else. There's no gray, there's no light, partial darkness, and then darkness. You know, if you're in the gray area, then you're neither hot nor cold. What does that mean? That means that you're combining the two. What's that called? Synchronism. You combine stuff together and make something. Well, you're not all the way following Yahushua, and you're not all the way following Satan, but you're combining the two teachings together and doing both at the same time. That's when you're not hot or cold. Well, guess what? That's going to get you burnt too. You're going to be fired. Okay.
Serving the two masters, and just like Elisha said at Mount Carmel, choose today.
Yeah, very powerful, Tad. Thank you for that. Very powerful. Anybody else got any thoughts on all that? So I hope we're all starting to wake up just a little bit. Yahuwah commanded us to wake up. And so I think we are, a lot of us. You know, there's only two choices, man. Don't get confused. Don't let all the confusion and the chaos fool you. Okay? There's only two choices. If it isn't the Basur of Yahushua, if you're not in the camp of the children of light, you have to be in the other choice. Ain't no other choices. Okay? That's all there is. All right. Interesting. I think extremely interesting that Paul injected this here in this valediction that he wrote. It amazes me. But go ahead. Let's finish it off.
Okay. Verse 19. Your obedience indeed is reported to all. Therefore, I rejoice concerning you. But I wish you to be wise indeed as to the good, and simple toward the evil. And the Yahuwah of peace shall crush Shaitan under your feet shortly. The favor of our Master Yahushua Mashiach be with you. So be it. Timothy.
Hang on a minute, Toria. Is anybody know, is there a reference in scripture that says that Yahuwah of peace shall crush Satan under your feet shortly? Anybody know where the reference is to confirm that statement from Paul?
In Genesis, isn't it?
Would you say it was the Genesis 3:15? You think that's it?
Will crush her head, or
Right.
Crush Satan under your feet shortly. Is that reference to Genesis 3:15, Toria, you think?
I was thinking that has to do with Hua, right? Hua?
Yeah, definitely Yahuwah of peace, or Yahusha, yeah. The deliverer, right?
I think she meant Hawa, or
Yeah.
she was talking about Eve.
Hua. Yeah.
Oh, Eve what? Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
he will crush your head, and you will. Yeah,
Right.
that one.
Right. So do you think that's confirmation of this is what Paul's saying? Okay. I'm just trying to wonder, where the crush Satan under your feet means, if it's because, I mean, we know that he gets locked up in darkness for 1,000 years and he's let out and he gets an army going, and then he gets thrown into the lake of fire, right? So apparently then the lake of fire is an idiom, then that's telling us that Hashatan's going to be destroyed or annihilated. It's like he never existed, along with sin and evil and all the other stuff, right? So is this in reference to when Yahuwah, the day of Yahuwah, where he comes and he burns up the earth in the sky, in the Shemayim, and then it says that we'll be like calves let out of the stall, and the wicked will be ashes under our feet. We're going to be jumping in joy, and they're going to be ashes under our feet. Does that mean Satan's going to be burned up then? Can't be, because he's going to be locked up for 1,000 years and let back out. So it can't be talking about that. So I just was wondering where that confirmation is. And maybe it is Genesis 3:15 there that Paul. It's a kind of a weird statement that Paul said there to me. You know, it got me scratching my head. But the only thing I can think of is Genesis 3:15. I don't know. Did anybody else got a reference on that to confirm Paul's statement? Okay, let's go ahead, Toria.
I was also thinking how he says he will crush them under your feet. Your feet is your walk.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking that, but through our walk, through our endurance, we overcome in the end. So we crush him with our walk, our endurance.
Mm-hmm.
Just a thought.
Yeah, that's a thought for sure. But it says, shall crush Satan under your feet shortly. You know, it's almost, to me, it sounds like destroying him, you know, or you're going to be walking on him. I wonder if Yahuwah would take and restrain Satan and let us all just kick the heck out of him. Well, he's under the foot of Yahuwah.
Well, doesn't he also say he's going to cut it short?
Yeah, he's going to cut his reign short for sure.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's an interesting statement. It really is. Okay, let's go ahead and finish that up, Toria.
21. Timothy, my fellow worker, and Lucius, and Jason, and Sosipater, Sophister, anyway, my relatives greet you. Tertius are who wrote this letter greet you in Yahuwah. Gaius, the host of all the assembly, and me greet you. Erastos, the treasurer of the city, greet you. And Quartus, a brother. The favor of our master Yahushua Mashiach be with you all. So be it. And to him who is able to establish you according to my Besora, and the preaching of Yahushua Mashiach, according to the revelation of the secret, which was kept silent since times of old, but now has been made manifest, and by the prophetic writings has been made known to all nations, according to the command of the everlasting Yahuwah, for faithful obedience to Yahuwah, wise alone, be the esteem through Yahushua Mashiach forever. So be it.
Thank you, Toria. Okay. Some really interesting things there. That Tertius wrote this letter. I thought it was written by Paul. So what's going on here? Anybody? Anybody? Go ahead, Ted.
We can make assumptions, but I don't like to do that. I'm thinking that maybe Tertius was a scribe who just listened to Paul, just like Paul listened to Yahusha in Revelations and was writing it down in Revelations 2 and 3. Just listened to what he said and wrote it down. That's just an assumption on my part.
I thought the same thing. I thought he would be a scribe.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he was taking dictation, writing down what Paul was telling him to write. Then he just wanted to clarify who wrote the letter. So put the knowledge out there so people wouldn't take it as a forgery. You know, that wasn't in Paul's handwriting. It's a forgery, you know. And so he identified, look, I'm the one that took the dictation, but I was writing down what Paul was sending you. So I think that's why they identified him as being the one writing it, because obviously it wouldn't have arrived in Paul's handwriting. And those were his relatives, right? Brothers, sisters, and mother. They would have recognized Paul's handwriting because, I mean, they conversed a lot. Their correspondence was by letter a lot back then, right? Because they didn't have a telephone, so they had to write the message, right? They couldn't just call you up on their cell phone. And so, yeah, so it's not a big deal. Some people make that a big deal, but I don't see it as a big deal. Go ahead, Mary Ann.
Thank you. I want to thank Toria for how well she went through those names. I probably would have said, and what's his face and what's his face. Nicely done.
Yeah, that chapter's a hard one with all those names on it. You did a lot better than I could have done on it.
Well, as soon as I started reading those names, I thought, what did I just get myself into?
I know that you were thinking that, man. I'm like, yeah, she's finding out now why I didn't want to read it. But yeah, and so down here at the bottom here in 24, or is that 24, 25? 25. It says, and to him who is able to establish you according to my Basora, that would be Yahusha, and the preaching of Yahushua HaMashiach, according to the revelation of the secret which was kept silent. So the revealing of a secret which was kept silent since times of old, but now has been made manifest. Okay, so what's that talking about? Go ahead, Dad.
Very simply, Mashiach in you.
There it is. Can't get no clearer than that. And by the prophetic writings has been made known to all nations. Okay, so what is that? What's the prophetic writings? Made to all nations. Go ahead, Tad.
Would just be all the writings of Yirmiyahu, Yashayahu, all the prophets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Tanakh, right? Okay, so and by the Tanakh has been made known to all nations. Okay, so we could just say that. There's prophecy in the other books that's coming from not just the prophets, okay? There's prophecy from Yahuwah, secret prophecy from Yahuwah throughout the entire Tanakh. According to the command of the everlasting Yahuwah for faithful obedience. He wants our faithful obedience. He wants to be able to trust you as his wife and that you don't go out whoring around on him with idols and other mighty ones and Hashatan. Okay? So he wants you to be trustworthy and faithful and true blue and loyal bride, right? For faithful obedience. To Yahuwah wise alone, he's the only one that knows anything. We know nothing unless he gives it to us. It's not our wisdom, it's his wisdom. Be the esteem, all esteem to Yahushua HaMashiach forever. Amen. So there we go. That's the end of our Romans study. So now we'll open it up for any type of conversation anybody wants to have from chapter 1 to chapter 16 or anything else. No matter. Let's just converse now for a little while. Go ahead, Toria.
Yeah, I was just noticing in verse 23 that Gaius, the host of all the assembly, and me. So he was there. So that's, even though Tertius or whatever his name is, who wrote the letter, it went right on to say that the assembly and me greet you. So I do believe that Tertius, whatever, he was the scribe and he was present and live while this was being done.
Yeah, it almost seems like he had people with him too. There was like, that wasn't just him and Tertius there described. They had other people there with them.
Yeah, the assembly, because it says the host of all the assembly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Eos, or whatever it is the host of all the assembly, where he's at, or it could be that he's like second in charge, but probably the assembly were whatever town they're at. I think he wrote this letter to the Romans while he was in Galatia, if I recall. I might be wrong on that. But so then made this guy would be the head of all that assembly, would be the overseer, and the treasurer of the city was with him, and another brother, another person in the body of Yahusha was there, a Quartus. So it sounds like there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people there when Paul wrote this. I think he wrote it from Galatia, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, then also on 25, it says, and to him who is able to establish you according to my Bezor. So he's saying to him, those who were there were able to establish him through the Bezorah that he was current and he was present.
Yeah, I agree. So there's more than one witness, right?
Yeah.
The one that was given the address in the letter. But I can't remember where Paul was right before he went to Jerusalem. It's slipping my mind. Anybody know? Was he in Galatia before he went to Jerusalem? I think it told us somewhere. But, I don't recall where it was now. It really doesn't matter, but that would be I believe the assembly where this Gaius is the host of all the assembly. It doesn't say he's the leader or anything, it just says he's hosting it. So it could have been in his house, right? Or his property, or in his house if he was the host of the assembly. So maybe they were all congregating at this guy's house on the Yom Shabbat or whatever day. Right? That's what it sounds like to me, being a host. The host is usually wherever, if we all went to Lou's house and assembled there, he would be the host of the assembly because it'd be at his house. So interesting. I think it's Galatia, but I may be wrong on that. I'm not going to say it's right or wrong. I don't know. I can't remember.
Well, it also says in 15, 25, but now I am going to Jerusalem to serve the set apart ones. So.
For it pleased those from Macedonia and Achaia to me. So he must have been in Macedonia or Achaia, because he collected up their food, their contribution to take with him to Jerusalem. So that's where he was.
Yeah.
He wrote this letter to the Romans. He must have been in Macedonia, which is a large area. There were different subdivisions of Macedonia back then, and Achaia was one of them. See what I'm saying? It was still in the Macedonia territory. It was just a subsection of it. It still fell within that territory of Macedonia. So that's where he was. And then he wrote this letter. So they were wherever this guy here, this Gaius was at, his house or whatever. Maybe he owned a building, who knows, or a field or something, or an outdoor arena, who knows. But wherever they assembled has something to do with him. He was the host of it up there in Macedonia somewhere, or Macedonia, if you will. Kind of cool, really, if you think about it. Most people miss that kind of stuff, but not the Natsarim. The Natsarim are fine tuners. We like to see the fine points so we get the full truth, because we're truth seekers and truth speakers. So we have to know the fine things written in Scripture.
I just noticed Rebecca Gibson girl, she put down in it, I mean, this makes sense to me. He had problems with his vision, so he needed a scribe.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking about that myself, that he had bad vision, and that's why he needed the scribe to write that. That could very well be. Very well be. Isn't it when he went back to Jerusalem is when he said something bad about, he didn't know it was the high priest? Didn't that happen when he went back there? Maybe why didn't he recognize the high priest? Because of his eyesight. Because he was definitely had a standout uniform on, that was only worn by the high priest. So how would he not know it was the high priest unless he couldn't see that well? Can you imagine? Look at all of us with glasses on here. Can you imagine living back then where there were no glasses and you had really bad, take off your glasses And you can kind of relate to what Paul was having problems doing. Writing, seeing who the high priest was.
Yeah. There's no way I could have read their scripts.
So the blind leading the blind, man. Take off our glasses. It'll be the blind leading the blind, right? Yeah. Interesting point, Rebecca. I agree with you. I think that's probably truth. Why else wouldn't he write the letter? I mean, he wrote all the other ones. There's a lot of them he wrote. So here, this is me, Paul, writing in my own handwriting, right? Which was the sacred code for the people that he was sending these to, the elders in those areas, to read to everybody else. That was the secret code to know that the letter really did come from Paul when he would, this is Paul writing in my own handwriting. That was the secret code because there was so much forgeries going on back then. People pretending to be Paul to mislead people. Wow, how evil is that? You know, people will write a letter, pretend like Paul wrote it to lead these people astray and make them do other teachings other than the Basura of Yahusha, which would be from what? Doctrine of demons. That's straight doctrine of demons, man. That's straight from the other guy. Hashatan assembly of the devil. Ain't no other assemblies. It's either assembly of Yahusha or the assembly of the devil. Ain't nobody else doing it. Sandra says Cornelius healed his eyesight. Where's that at, Sandria? Yeah, I can. What comes to my mind is when Paul was blinded by the light on the road to Damascus, and maybe that caused him to have permanent damage to his eyes. Right. So the guy goes in there and lays his hand on Paul so that Paul can receive his eyesight back and receive the Ruach HaKodesh. That was that man's mission. Maybe he got his eyesight back, but not fully. Maybe he left that little bit of blurriness is a thorn in Paul's side. I don't know, just to remind him, remember you were blinded. And so your poor eyesight's going to be a reminder to you that you were blinded before you believed in the light.
And that is what Rebecca says. This may have been the thorn in his flesh, or his deep sorrow for killing others who worship Yahusha, was his blindness.
Yeah, exactly. A reminder of why he was blinded in the first place, And he was blind spiritually, was he not? He had no spiritual insight, man. He was out persecuting the people following the way of Yahuwah.
Or also, I went to the doctor when I started I couldn't see close up anymore. And it was so fast within 3 days that I went to the doctors, and he said, well, you have 20/20 vision. So I have great vision. He said, but you have age now. So that was, so maybe Paul was up there in age. He could see, but he was at the age where he couldn't see like us. So he may have been healed of his eyesight, but not. You can't be healed of of age.
Yeah, that's an option too. That could be. Could be it was just a natural decline of his eyesight over age. Like that's why I got these on. It ain't that I can't see, but I just can't read real small writing anymore. I guess that's a natural phenomenon we have to deal with.
It's an example of Jacob and Esau. Wait. With the father's eyesight. Am I saying that right? Esau, yeah.
He did what now?
How he didn't know who was who. He had to touch him. He had to feel the hair on his skin.
Yeah.
Because he was older. His eyesight wasn't of what it was.
Yeah.
And apparently his hearing, I'm sure as of age, it was hard for him to decipher who was who.
Right. You know what's even amazing on that topic is Moshe. You know, Moses, man, his eyesight never declined, never blurred. He kept his perfect eyesight his whole life. It's kind of amazing to me. It's almost like, it seems like it has something to do with Yahuwah, allowing him to keep that perfect eyesight. There's because he could see in the spiritual realm better. You know what I mean? So he wasn't blinded. You know, he was able to. He had eyes to see and ears to hear. Yahuwah.
That may have come with seeing the backside of Yahuwah.
That may have. Sandra is correcting herself here. She's saying, Acts 9:17, Canaan laid hands on him to heal his eyesight. And that's what we were just talking about. That's what I kind of thought you meant, Sandra. I wasn't real sure. That's why I asked you where the reference was. Yeah, there's a lot to that having eyes to see and ears to hear thing, man. You know, that's in depth spiritual insight. It goes deep, different layers of depth. Anybody have anything to mention about this entire letter to the Romans? We covered a lot. It's been a while. What did it take us, about 4 or 5 weeks to go through this? So we covered a lot in here, but it was a great study, and I hope we all have a better understanding now here of the knowledge of Yahuwah by, you know, participating in this study together. I know I did. I picked up on a lot.
I think we should just thank Mark for what he does here, because if it wasn't for this gentleman and some of the other people that are involved in this, that pulling back of the veil wouldn't be occurring. You know, you do and give us a great opportunity to open our minds and really see the truth, you know, the way the scripture wants us to. So I thank you for that, brother. Thank you for doing this.
I appreciate that, William. But let's give all esteem to Yahusha. And I just want to say that I'm just a servant of Yahusha like everybody else, man. You know, I've got a job to do, and I'm just doing what Yahusha assigned me to do. And we all have jobs. You know, there's like 9 jobs given to each one of us individually as workers for Yahuwah. We're servants of Him. We work for Him. And if you don't have a job, you could pray for a job. Not everybody has the same job. And if you don't, then I suppose then your job would be to worship and praise Yahuwah, you know, and let His light shine out to the rest of the world, that they can see Him through you. You know, there's a lot to that, but you have to remember that we all work for Yahuwah in some form or the other. You know, it's not about any of us. We're all servants of the Most High. And so, you know, we need to focus on Him. Put all attention to give Him all your attention, all the esteem to Him. And this work as hard as we can for Yahuwah. All of us, you know, we're all brothers and sisters. We're one, you know, and we all have the same goal, you know, the same motive, and that's to increase the kingdom of Yahuwah. That's what we do, you know. So we all are hard workers, and it don't matter. It's not too late for you to do a job and do it. I mean, even if you're 90 years old or 100 years old, don't matter. The reward's the same. Your reward is the same as a person like Lou White there. Has been doing this for how long, Lou? 50 some years. He isn't going to get a greater reward than a person that's just started doing it. So the pay is the same. It's immortality. We're all pursuing immortality. Doesn't matter how long. Okay. But remember, there is a such thing as elders. And these are the people that's put the time and the effort and the study into it in order to back off of themselves and start helping the beginners, the babes, the children, as they walk the same path that we walked. The people that's been doing it for a while. We all have the same path to walk. And that's why you can recognize it. It's such a narrow path. We can look at a babe and see where he's at in his walk. Oh, yeah, I remember when I thought that. I better not say nothing. He'll figure it out. That's the best way for us to handle that kind. When we see their walk and where they're at, it's best not to point it out. Just let them think what they're thinking, because we used to think that too until we went past that point. Yahuwah opened our eyes. Here, I'm going to feed you a little bit more truth. It's like he throws out breadcrumbs on the path, right? You pick up a little bit more truth, walk up to the next one, pick it up, the manna, put it in your mouth, you get a little bit more truth. So he just makes you follow, you stay on the path, and I'll feed you truth, just like breadcrumbs. All right? And then you get to the point where you run out of literal truth, and now you're saying, oh, I'm getting hungry. And you say, okay, let me give you some living water. Open up your mouth. I'm going to pour in some spiritual knowledge into you now. And then we take and then we get a higher understanding of his scriptures then from him, not on our own. He's the one that teaches us step by step by step. Some people he can give them a basket to eat, and some people he can only give them a crumb. He knows how to deal with all of us. We're all different. Some people it takes 20 years to learn to a certain point, and some people it takes 2 weeks or a couple months to get to that same point. So we're all different. That's why we can't point things out. We just got to just look at it, smile, have joy in your heart, and say, yeah, I see where Yahushua's got you at, man. Just keep following him.
Well, it's like our elders. When I think about our elders of from the beginning, and you think about even Noah, Adam was alive during Noah's time, and they learned by word of mouth, by seeing, by hearing. So they believe that they believe that they believe. Where we're in a time, they've walked away from their elders, and they've lost the respect and the knowledge of their elderlies today. Where those of us, I'm sure most of us that are on this journey, we see our elders so differently than the world does. I mean, without them, nothing. Shalom, AJ.
Yeah, I was reading somewhere the other day where it said that back in the first century era, back then, and even before, or whatever, before really, that the children of Israel, the kids, they would start teaching them the Tanakh, or the Torah, and the whole Tanakh really at 6. When they reached the age of 6. And then it said by the time that they reached 10, they knew the 5 books of Moshe, the Torah, by heart. They could repeat it verbatim. So the teacher could say the very first line in any chapter, and the kids could repeat it orally. They had it memorized by the age of 10. Amazing, man.
And today, Hashatan has worked so hard at dividing the family, getting the mother out of the household, not supporting her husband, relying on her own will instead of her husband's strength, and allowing their children to watch, to see their father be strong and grow in truth. It's just been all taken away to where we don't have that anymore.
Yeah. Very powerful, man. I mean, even that, like Psalms 22, where he says, my all, why have you forsaken me? And he said that on a stake, right? So people think, that's proof that he's a subordinate, in the Trinity, right? And the Father's greater, it says the Father's greater, right? And so it proves he's a subordinate in Trinity because he was crying out in his weakness to the Father, right? And he was not. What he was actually doing was reciting, he was quoting the first line in Psalms 22, and all them people that had memorized, the adults had memorized the entire Tanakh by then. The children had the Torah totally memorized verbatim by 10, knew what he was saying. He was still continuing to teach them. He wasn't cursing them. He was continuing to teach them, man. And so for him to say, my all, why have you forsaken me? They all knew, oh, he's reciting. He wants us to go to Psalms 22 to understand what's going on. And they all knew it by heart. They didn't have a BYNB. They were just big, huge, heavy scrolls that were kept around in certain places. Nobody had anything private. That's why they had to congregate on Shabbat. They wanted to hear it read.
I think the same thing for Paul's writings. Rebecca had said something about that Paul's writings were, or somebody, it might have been Sandra, sorry, that his writings weren't to be understood by the lawless. But for those who are seeking Yahuwah are going to understand it. It's like the parables. Those who are followers and lovers of him will understand, but those who are walking in his ways, who are lawless, will not understand.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if they're not in the camp of Yahuwah, they're in the camp of Satan, camp of darkness, man. Although there is scripture that says that Hashatan, masquerades as a messenger of light, right? Now, Hashatan knows scriptures. He's got it memorized, So he can use scripture against you, if you will, if he can manipulate it enough to mislead people into thinking something that's not there. And then he even teaches them how to do it with cherry picking tactics to create divisions. He's a great divider, Shaitan. The men that do it just learned from him. They learned to do it from Hashatan. He's the author of division. Divide and conquer. Old cliche, man, but so true. Still powerful today. You divide somebody or anybody, you can conquer. Evil tactic, but it works very well. Anybody else got any questions or anything they want to bring up on Romans, any of the chapters or verses or anything? Cherry picking is something that dividers do, and what they do is they take they cherry pick the verse out of context, and they totally remove it, and then they go find another one, they cherry pick it and they totally remove it, and they build up a doctrine to trick people with, right? To lead people astray with and get them to follow them for personal gain or whatever their motive is. When we pick verses out and we dissect them, look at them, talk about them, that's not cherry picking as long as we put it right back in where we found it and leave it there. We don't get to take it out of that context. We got to put it right back where we found it and leave it there. We don't get to assemble another doctrine by cherry picking a bunch of verses. That becomes a doctrine of demons or a doctrine of division. Same thing. Go ahead, AJ.
Can you hear me? I wanted to say shalom to everyone. Sorry I'm a little late getting on. But I had it was a good teaching last night too as well. And that's one of the things that hurts me when I see people walking in unison And all of a sudden, I see some splinter off, like they found some type of knowledge or following some type of person for unknown reasons, I would say. Trying to stay together as one is a challenge, not for Yahusha, but for the believers, knowing how we came into this knowledge, this walk, coming from one side, coming into the right side, I would say. And you're right, Brother Mark. You know, that's why I told you I prayed for you, like I prayed for Lou and Phyllis when I first met them and heard them, I should say. And I know Yahusha is not pleased with it because he warned us all through scriptures about people coming into your love feast, people coming into whatever you're doing and they want to disrupt it after some time they've been in it because they were not for you, the brethren and sisters in the beginning. They had a particular motive. And I'm just glad that I got to know everyone on here. Brother Lou, William, Danny, Toria, Sandra, Tad, and his mom. It's just awesome. And you're right about a lot of things, you know, that was said. Especially last night, that really helped me to understand even more so how we ought to be all the time and just humble ourselves and just stay babes. Like I said before, we want to grow up and be grown so fast and want to know things, and we just skip over the basic thing, which is love, the foundation of why everything is here, why we here, why Yahusha came, is all about love. And a lot of them just don't get it. They want to know something, or just to want to know it to say, well, you know, I know this now, I understand this now. But they're not really applying it to their lives like they should, and gathering the set apart ones together instead of breaking people apart. That's not what we are supposed to do. And I find it fascinating, sometimes just upsetting when people do that. But I know the Father knows all things. He has everything in his hands. But it still bothers me from time to time when people walk in a straight path and then they go off to the left for no unforeseen reason, because this person might dress well, have a nice family, or they might look up to him in some kind of way. But if they look toward Yahushua or the way they look at a human, then there would be no need for a lot of the things that we see. And I think that's a tribute to inexperience spiritually in walking. But I'm with you, brother. I'm praying for everybody, even myself, every day. And I thank you for what you're doing, because it's truly a task that we're dealing with in this world. But thanks be to Yahushua, he gives us strength to overcome all the time. Just all I wanted to say is thank you, and I love all of you guys and women.
Yeah, I love that message of unity and love, man. It's really what it's all about. So, yeah, we can see the one body and the one head, right, working here today. We're all in the same mindset. I don't see anybody arguing or causing strife with anybody. We all seem to have a great love for each other, because of Meshach in us, and that's good, because that shows people that we're on the right path, and it also proves who his people are. If you love, if those who love their brother or love others, is definitely chosen by Yahuwah. That's why he chose you, because you had that capacity to love others. He loves pure hearts, man. Yahuwah is all over a pure heart, for sure.
A good tree bears good fruit. The rotten tree bears rotten fruit.
So true. Go ahead, Tori, man.
I was also thinking on what AJ had said, and it made me think about, you hear, especially in Christianity, but that we were once on milk when you start out. And then, then there's those who are in the meat, and you have those who are so pompous that they have so much more knowledge than I'll probably ever have. But I think that's why Yahusha, when he spoke of the children, if you don't come to him as a child, to me, now we are children in school. It will never end. We're going to be continually learning, continually being taught by, those who come across and those who we meet. There's always something to learn. We're not going to have it all. Just like the fallen, Hashatan thought he had all of it. He thought he had the full ingredient book, and he didn't. Yahuwah has given us an amount for each of us. We are continually schooled, and we will always, that's why I believe we should be children. We're in school, and we will always be that child until we endure till the end, until he gives us the end, the meat, I guess. Yahuwah. But I think until then, we are in school. We are children. Just a thought.
Yeah, and we all mature in the knowledge of Yahuwah, but we never grow up. Okay, so Yahuwah alone is wise, but we do mature. Okay, in the knowledge of Yahuwah. That's what's makes us the type of person that Yahuwah wants. As we mature in the knowledge of Yahuwah, not the knowledge of the world. It doesn't do anybody any good. It just really destroys lives. The knowledge of the world, it makes people want to reign over other people. That's not good stuff at all. But the Yami or rules comment here I threw up on the screen there. It says Yahuwah is everything. Kind of reminded me of a particular point in my walk that changed everything for me. And it's when I realized, and some of you may have experienced this as well, it's when I realized this big life changer, right, was that when I realized that Yahuwah is everything, and I realized that we need to praise Yahuwah for everything. And that means good or what we perceive as a curse or bad. Could be a blessing in disguise. So if we learn, once I got to this point where I started praising Yahuwah for even the bad things that were happening to me, it changed my life. And I started realizing, I need to praise Yahuwah for anything that he brings into my life. I praise him for it. And that builds up trust from you to Yahuwah, and also allows Yahuwah to call you, to trust you. And so try that. It's a life changer. It really is. If you get fired from your job, praise Yahuwah for it. Go ahead, Tad. Oh, you were waving? Okay. Everybody's waving. You're confusing me.
I was waving goodbye. Tad was waving goodbye. I was waving goodbye. I'm going to let you all go. I have to help this person. I love you all.
Okay.
Shalom.
We love you. Okay. Phyllis is going off to do good works. Anybody else got anything at all now? Go ahead, William.
I was just kind of reflecting on what AJ was talking about, and what our definition sometimes of what love can be. I remember in the summer of 1969, I was a teenager, and the definition of what love was that was given to the world, to us in this country that spread literally around the world, was this drug-infused immorality of what love was that we kind of witnessed at Woodstock or some of the other great festivals that were going on at that time that was being broadcast on television, and so when I was growing up as a kid in the rock and roll business, we had this very skewed interpretation of what love actually was, and it was basically demonic. As I got older and I realized that it was a complete lie and a deception until you can actually understand who gave us the true definition of what love is and how we're supposed to address that, how we're supposed to recognize that was the Father. It come from Yahuwah, and so coming into that understanding is a part of the walk. It's part of that epiphany or that paradigm shift that we experience, coming into the truth. But it also should be a warning and something that we should pay attention to as the weapons of warfare that are used against us to destroy. Like Tori was mentioning, about the breakdown of the family and the unity of the family and the strength that comes from that, and how wicked this whole thing is today, and how they work so hard to pull us away from the Creator, whether it was, through the theory of evolution or the global church system or the schools or the agendas that are out there that are literally designed by the synagogue of Satan as a deception, and we didn't even get it. They're not even getting it today, But what a revelation that is when we come to understand what true love really is. It's completely out of the realm of what they teach us in the world. Thanks, AJ. Love you too, brother.
Yeah, so trusting Yahuwah for everything and praising him for everything is also kind of related to never losing your peace. Don't give up your peace. Keep your peace in all situations. Don't forfeit your peace, because if you do that, then fear comes in, and once fear takes hold, you're a mess. That's when the devil and the demons can attack and you can stumble. If you're scared and you're running through a forest or something, right, and you're scared and you're all sweaty and you have high anxiety and fearful and all this, that's when you can get hurt. That's when you can get hurt, Or if you're on a horse, we'll say, and the horse starts bucking or he bolts and he runs off on you and you're on his back. Okay. When you start fearing that and you get scared and you lose your peace and you get all tight, anxiety and everything, and then you jump off the horse, that's when you can get hurt. So in every situation, not only should we praise Yahuwah, even if we lost our job or we broke our leg, whatever, a car accident, and praise him, praise you, Yahuwah, I got in this car accident. Thank you, Father. Sounds weird, but it's not. And so in that situation, you keep your peace. So you don't jump out of the car and beat the person up because they ran into the back of your vehicle. You walk over and say, "Are you okay?" Yes. Well, that's all that matters. The rest of it, we can fix the rest of this. You keep that peace. Don't give it up. Don't let Satan steal your peace. Don't let anyone steal your peace. Remain peaceful in all situations and praise Yahuwah in all situations, because Yahuwah is everything. Let's keep that frame of mind. That'll take us a long ways down that narrow path. Speaking of love, you guys, love is really the end, is our goal. It's the lesson of the Torah, right? It's really the secret of life. There's people that run around in life dazed and confused. They leave their families, beautiful children, nice spouse, and they leave that because they want to find themselves. And what are we? We're love. So what are they really searching for? Yahuwah, because he's love. But yet they run away from their families to find themselves. And who they really are is love. So love is an extremely important word that we all need to really get a better handle on it, and realize that it's just not lip service. It is not something out there that's foreign or far away from us, so we can't achieve it, because we are love. We are made in the essence of Yahuwah. He's love, we're love. Once we find love, we find ourselves. You ain't got to go running around, horning around on your husband and leave your family to find love. You are love. Love them instead of leaving them. No, powerful. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. Why? Because it's Yahuwah. That's why. But it requires action. You can't just lip service either. You got to do things for people. That's when that, in I think Matthew 25, I think it is, where he goes in and it says, you didn't, I was hungry, you didn't feed me. I was naked, you didn't clothe me. Remember that? What's that doing, man? Well, that's a good definition of love in action, is what that is. So if you're confused on love, read that. The ones that didn't do that, what? They were thrown in the lake of fire. The ones that did that and loved people with action, put their love into action so people could witness their love, they were allowed into the reign of Yahuwah. So it's a real good definition of love. Go ahead, Marianne. Marianne's off to take a nap and rest on Yom Shabbat.
She was just saying goodbye.
Okay.
We were spinning there for a minute, but I think it was just us.
Yeah, I didn't see any spinning. Probably just you rebooting up a little bit. Anybody else got a contribution to the study of Romans? Okay. Then at this point, well, I just want to ask one thing. Do y'all want to continue on with Paul here now and go into Corinthians? Or do you want to take a break from Paul and go to Job or something? What do you want to do? Continue on through Paul's writings? 1 Corinthians, I think, would be a good thing to do. So let's plan on next week starting in 1 Corinthians, okay? Let's just do that. Okay, so at this point, anybody else got anything or questions or advice or comments or anything they've received from the Ruach? We don't want to quench the Ruach, so if you got something in your mind, let it out.
The only thing I can think of would be a possible study in current events on prophetic things, because things are happening pretty quickly here in current events, such as the Crimean principle, the bridge to Chimera, I believe that's what it's called, was blown up today. So things are kind of happening. Wars, rumors of wars, whatever this is going to be. But I don't know. Maybe we should consider, maybe after Corinthians, something about current events and prophetic things.
Yeah, and we can also bring that up at the end of our study too, in an open format. Like now, you can talk about anything you want to, man. There's no restriction really. And if you want to talk about that here at the end, that's fine too. You know, let Tad back in. Speaking of that, Danny, there is news out here just recently within the last week or couple weeks that Israel has received 5 red heifers from Texas, and they're all perfect. And the thing on that is that they've been searching for a red heifer for a long time. So if they've actually find one, it has to be a certain age. So they have to wait like 1 year now. They have them over there. If one remains perfect, they're going to sacrifice that on the Mount of Olives to cleanse Israel. And once they cleanse Israel through this animal sacrifice of the red heifer, guess what? They're going to start building the third temple.
Yeah, but what does that really have to do with the prophetic lines? I mean, is there anything that says there has to be a third temple, or are we not a temple, or so kind of in-depth things to maybe look at?
Now, well, I believe there is in Revelations. Revelations 13 for one, and some other places. Are we the third temple, the body of Yahushua? Yes. We're the real third temple. Okay, we're the reality. The third temple, if they do build the third temple up on the Temple Mount there and resume animal sacrifices, and the Mashiach, anti-Messiah walks in there and proclaims to be Yahuwah, he stands on the Temple Mount proclaiming to be Yahuwah. Okay, that's all foreshadow. Okay, that's a foreshadow, man. The reality is us, the one body or the assembly of Yahushua. Go ahead, Toria.
Yeah, I did hear about the heifer too. They have been genetically modifying and creating the heifer to get the so-called perfect heifer, which we all know that they're all imperfect, because if you have GMO, you are unclean. So they have created something unclean. But also the third temple, of course, I believe is their delusion, because it's in front of them, just like the Messiah was in front of them and they didn't even see him. So I believe that is what we are that temple that is being unseen.
Yeah, they're definitely in a delusion. Go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, because Yahushua was the last sacrificial lamb, as we know, and nothing else can take his place. They're still in darkness, unfortunately. But as far as current events, we read about that all through Scripture. The things that's happening in Crimea, Russia, all these different places is prophesied. The end is near. We don't know when it's going to happen. It don't really matter. All we have to do is walk right, follow Yahushua, because there's going to be a lot of things going on in this world pretty soon that's going to have people pulling their hair out of the roots of their head. That's how bad it's going to get. And I sat down one day. It would just remind me when I had lost my job years ago, how this person supposed to have been a friend got me out of the job, and I had to move right away. So I was living in my car for a while in the winter, sleeping on the New Jersey Turnpike because what this fella did. That's when I had cried out, and I said, Father, if you are real, I said the J name because that's all I knew. I said, show me yourself, because I was tired of living the way I was living. I was tired of being tricked, being used and abused. And that's when Yahushua entered my life, and I didn't even know it until some days later. and something just came up. Something entered me that I wasn't born with. I knew something happened. It wasn't when I got baptized. It was after that when I got baptized. And all I could say was, wow, I couldn't even explain it. It was just like a baby coming out the mother's womb. He don't really see good, eyes closed. That's how it was. And as the weeks went on, I started seeing and acting different, nothing of myself. And one of the things I noticed reading through scripture, how every place Yahushua went, when he looked upon people, it said he looked upon him with compassion. And that helped me to look at people different. I know I said, wow, I said, that's amazing. He looked upon them with compassion. He was moved with compassion. We need to have more of that in our individual lives. Maybe that'll help us to see clearly. That's all.
Thank you, AJ. A lot of that stuff you said, I'd experienced too, man. So obviously, we can recognize the work of the Ruach, right? The only one Ruach, no matter what. Ruach does everything. The one Ruach is in everything. So it's easy for us to recognize the work of the Ruach. Okay. Anybody else? Got anything you want to talk about? Yeah, it's the red heifer and all of that. And if they do build that temple and everything, that has nothing to do with us. That's just because they're lost. They don't seem to recognize the deliverer that came, and which is Yahusha. But yet a lot of them over there have no problem going along with the name Yeshua or even the J-Man, and so it shows us that Hashatan is everywhere. He's everywhere. His influence is found everywhere. The entire world is under his delusion, or the system of the beast, if you will. And it is a system. It's made up of a religious doctrine and a governmental doctrine together, ruling over the laity. And these different organizations, this religious organization and its counterpart, the government, have leaders. There's always somebody leading the charge, right? And so in the end time, they will still have leaders working together as one assembly to overthrow the laity, to lead them astray, to make them fall. The farther they can keep people away from the truth, the more powerful they become, and the more that they can achieve. It's called division. So that's why it's very important for us to stay united into the one body, is so that we don't get up and get involved in these divisions and fall, get removed from the temple of Yahuwah. Bad news, but it can easily happen. If we fall prey to the dividers or the controllers, if you will. People call them the controllers. Go ahead, Toria.
Just a thought. I was thinking about our patriarchs, even Joseph and those even of Paul. They didn't seem, even though like Joseph, who was in Pharaoh's house, he wasn't in their business. He was about their father's business. It's just like even Daniel, all the things he went through, he was still about his father's business. He didn't commune with this, the others. He separated himself. Even though he was there, he separated himself. And I believe that's what we're doing here. Things are happening. Scripture says that we are supposed to we are to be aware and know your enemy, but we are not to consume ourselves with those things. I believe, like our patriarchs, that we are to gather and to learn and just to praise Yahuwah. And it's just one thing that I have noticed throughout scriptures is they were not involved in the worldly things.
What a very powerful point you just brought up, Toria. That's good stuff, man. Thank you for that. Even Yahusha, when he was a little boy, right? And he stayed behind when they were supposed to leave after they celebrated Passover, I think it was, or I can't remember which festival it was, or appointed time. But they left and he stayed there, right? And when they found him, he said, what are you doing? I think his mommy asked him, what are you doing? And he's like, no, didn't you know I'd be about my father's work? So there he is performing his father's work in front of all these Pharisees that he would confront as he grew up, right? With men's teachings, with their traditions. Amazing, man. Yeah, that's very powerful stuff, man. It's absolutely right. So you can be in the among the assembly or the camp of darkness or assembly of Hashatan. Doesn't mean you have to be doing what they're doing. You could still be about our Father's work, even though you're in darkness at that particular time. Maybe even be living there among them. And look at Lot, man. He was living, Lot in the Sodom and Gomorrah deal, right? That poor righteous man was being tormented every day by the sin of that city. He had to listen to it. It was in his ears. He's seen it with his eyes. He was being tortured every single day in that camp of darkness, the city of Satan, right? But yet he was about his Father's work. He didn't succumb to them. He didn't do what they did. Although he lived among them, he was still able to stay set apart from them and stay united in the one body and do the Father's work. Powerful stuff, man. Yep.
And like right now, I mean, we all know what season it is and what they're celebrating. I know I've been at my new job for like 4 weeks now, and the decorations are everywhere. And it was truly amazing to me. I don't know, those who know me and my husband's walk, he doesn't walk my walk, but he allows me to practice and believe what I believe freely. But it was pretty amazing. I am working where he works. We're just in separate departments. And one of the girls there was trying to get everybody to donate decorations. And my husband actually told him that we do not celebrate Halloween. And I was just thrown back when the girl told me, when she came to our department looking for donations. And I said, oh, I'm sorry, we don't celebrate. And she goes, oh, your husband already told me you guys don't celebrate. So that's a win-win on my end, but for Yahuwah. But yeah, we have to, like you said, we're in it, we're walking in it, we see it, we're fighting it, just like Lot did. It's in our face every day, and we have to overcome that and conquer it and be strong in our faith. And it's not easy, but I don't know about you all, but it seems to be getting easier for me to be strong.
Yeah, it does. And, if you really think about it, it's kind of like the food offered to idols, right? And that you eat it or something you didn't know it was or whatnot. It's the candy of Halloween. I mean, think about that. So you go into the grocery store, Walmart or whatever, and it's after Halloween. All this candy has witches on it, driving broomsticks with their little pointed hats on, and ghosts and goblins and all this stuff on the packages, right? For Halloween, right? They just flood the stores with all this stuff, with all these abominations, these pictures on them of all these evil things, ghosts, whatever, skeletons, worshiping death. Okay, so Halloween's over, And then they put everything on discount, and then you walk in there and you buy all that leftover candy, Halloween candy, and take it home and eat it. Is that a sin? Since it was basically offered to Hashatan, was it not? Yeah, it is, man. I wouldn't doubt if they're not offering or thanking the devil for it and doing sacrifices to the devil over this candy before it even leaves their factories. I wouldn't doubt it. So we go in there and we buy all this discounted candy with these Halloween graphs on it. Is that sin if we eat that candy after Halloween? Anybody? Should we leave that stuff alone?
If you know that's what it's for, then I would leave it alone. You're participating. You already know what it was. So if I know that it's decorate, I won't touch anything that is at, shapes and whatever. I won't touch it. I will go for something else instead until it's all over with.
I personally don't think it matters. Yesterday,
Well, I don't think it does, but I don't want to contribute to their fund.
yeah, yesterday I went to the dentist. They gave me this, and it was my toothbrush and whatever else. So I'm like, I looked at it. I was like, oh, okay, but it doesn't mean that the contents of the bag is celebrating the fall feasts of the devil. So I mean, candy is candy. It's there. Who cares? Shouldn't eat it anyway. But I certainly can't. But I personally, unless it is something that you are so concerned about, then I don't see it as a problem to eat any of that stuff or brush my teeth with a toothbrush that was in a fall holiday bag.
Yeah. First of all, I'm like you, Toria. I don't look at that candy, and I certainly ain't going to buy it and bring it to my house with all those pictures, evil stuff on them, But on the other hand, I agree with Danny. It ain't got no power.
I believe that too. It doesn't have power over me, but I don't want to contribute to the world system.
I feel the same way. I don't buy it, man. It's not because I'm afraid of it or I think it's got voodoo spell on it or something, because I know it doesn't. That stuff ain't real. It doesn't affect us. We're protected by Yahuwah. It's not going to affect us at all. But here's the thing. I want to ask you. If a black cat crosses the road in front of your car, is that bad luck?
That's a poor cat. I'm so sorry for the cat.
You get 7 years bad luck if you break a mirror. How about if you walk under a ladder? Is that bad luck? And tell me about those things, those superstitions. Do we think about those things in our mind because we were taught those as children? Do they have power over us? Is that not like candy that's offered to Shaitan and put witches' pictures on them? Isn't that the same thing? If we look at that as a superstition, that's been got a witch on it, I better not eat that. I might turn into a goblin or something. Talk about that. How about superstitions? Go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, we grew up in a lot of mess, I should say. And whatever our walk is with Yahushua, he will clean it up along the way. I just don't nitpick at a lot of different things. Now I have the understanding that I do. And the toothbrush is fine, Brother Danny. If it doesn't get up one morning and say, pick me up, then you got a problem. You throw it out the back door. But other than that, you're fine, man. I mean, they even eat. When I went into the Walmart during Easter time, they had all the candy all around. And I did wanted a piece of candy. So I said, I'm going to go and look on the rack, find me some candy. Maybe that's not wrapped. But they got that covered too because they wrap everything, even on the shelves. So I said, well, should I buy this candy? I mean, I don't eat it much. Sometimes I like to have a piece of something sweet. That's with diabetics. You know, we just drawn to something sweet. So, but I bought it. I didn't even think nothing of it because I know one thing, it does not have power over me, for one thing. And I know there's a picture on there, but it's a dead picture. That's all. It's a dead picture. You know, I'm learning to, like Yahushua, he was all things to all men. Well, not mainly to Yahushua, but Shaul, Paul, just to win some of them. Now, he didn't sin, but he had to be in a different demeanor to walk upon all this negativity in the world just to get to one person. And he didn't sin. They said, oh, he sits with drunkards and prostitutes and tax collectors. But he didn't do what they did. He sat amongst them, but he, like Brother Mark said, he was on his job. I like to stay focused, that I can walk in anywhere that the Father sent me, and he will bring me out unscathed because of my spirit and my mindset. So, you know, those little things don't bother me anymore. Now I understand them and I put them in their place. They have no power on me, over me. That's what I think. That's all.
Yeah, you kind of put yourself in a prison or a prison of mind. You put your mind in a prison when you allow these things to guide your life, you know, and you live your life according to these superstitions. And the ultimate one to me is, Ouija boards. You know, does that Ouija board really have a demon in it? No, man. You know, the demon comes when you believe in that in the power of that board. And so once you start wanting to talk to this board, this demon or spirit in this board, you're calling them into your life. And them demons are probably knocking each other down, trying to be the first one to get to you so they can sit there and play with your mind, you know, entertaining that demon. So with your belief in the power of the darkness, playing with that Ouija board, you're allowing demons into your life. That's what you're doing. And then it does become a reality, you know, because you're giving them power to come into your life and talk to you and do things and teach you things, man. Of course, they're going to jump in there and take advantage of that weakness, you know. But other than that, I mean, people are scared to death to throw them Ouija boards away. So they give it to Goodwill or give it to their neighbor or somebody else because they think that the devil's going to kill them if they throw that Ouija board away. I toss that thing in the dumpster in a heartbeat, man. Why? Because I know the devil can't do anything without Yahuwah's permission. He's got to get permission from Yahuwah to hurt you. You belong to him, man. You're sealed with his name, man. Devil can't do nothing to you unless Yahuwah says, okay, go ahead and put some boils on him, you know, let's see what he does. Go ahead, Toria.
I was just going to say, it's so interesting that you just brought up the Ouija board because my husband was watching something and that was on the commercial. It was a Halloween. I couldn't even tell you what it was because I was so annoyed. I couldn't believe they used the Ouija. Well, I can't believe I say it. We can believe it. The Ouija board was for a Halloween commercial. But I don't know if it was for candy or what, but it was last night. I find that very interesting.
Yeah, there's been some weird stuff happen to people playing with them, but you know what? It's because they allowed that power into their life. They invited the demon into their life by believing in the power of that Ouija board. Just like when you believe in the power of all those superstitions, you're allowing that falsehood to come into take you over, put your mind in a prison, and contain you. Even today, I don't do it as much, but even if a black cat runs across me, my mind goes to that, even though I don't believe it anymore, and I realize that has no power. That's falsehood, But my mind still goes to the black cat, bad luck going across the road, and I reject it. Why? Because we're brainwashed so deep from childhood with all this stuff, man. We got to continuously toss that, get it out of our mind. It's really weird because since a child, we were taught all these holidays, right? So each one of us knows how to celebrate these pagan holidays, Christmas and Easter. We know how to do it, man. We got it down pat because we were taught all that. But then we get into Yahuwah's 7 appointed times and we're all kind of, stumbling around in the dark, right? Because we weren't raised in it. So we really don't quite get it. What should we be doing? How should we be acting? What do we, And it takes a long time to process that through our minds where it becomes part of our culture, just like all them holidays became part of us because we were, from a baby, we were taught them. I mean, I've seen newborn babies in a picture with a Santa Claus costume on because they were born around Christmas or on Christmas, or an Easter bunny costume because they were born around Easter. Newborn babies, taking pictures of them, they're raised from birth in that stuff. And so it's a struggle, but we have to, when those thoughts come into our mind, we have to reject them and say, there's no power in that. That's a beautiful cat, admire the cat and stop thinking about the superstition. But it always pops into my mind, because it's so programmed, But anyway, anybody else got anything on any of that? Okay, so at this point, I'd like to ask Brother Lou, now that we're going to go into Corinthians next week, Lou, and we're going to get off of Romans, can you give us like an overall assessment of Romans?
Romans is a letter. It calls itself a letter there in chapter 15. No, it's 15. The letter, and it's my favorite letter of all letters in the scriptures. It tells us about the function of the spiritual components of how we are to understand our behavior after receiving the Ruach HaKodesh of Yahusha in chapters 6, 7, and 8. Those 3 chapters are the heart of it, and they slowly unfold the puzzle, as to how to understand what's happened and how we should explain it to other people. So Romans 6, 7, and 8 have always been my go-to verses for people to slowly study on that. And of course, it also opens up with, chapter 1, for example, talks about, lots of different things, extremely heavy things that are plainly written that help us see what's wrong with homosexuality, for example, or idolatry. And each chapter, we went through this so well. And I thought you did a wonderful job, Mark. It's amazing. The letter, that's basically my assessment of Romans. It's my favorite explanation. Romans 12. It just explodes with humility. You've got it explains to people who might think that they're more important than they should. And it puts them in their place. It's a very humbling thing. And Paul was a very, very wise person, but his knowledge was so great about Yahusha that it was blinding to people. They didn't understand it. He really talked too fast, probably. I don't know. But the recommendation that Mark has given all of us is to slow down and read each verse and then back up and consider what you read before. And this is a very, very easily understood book, or letter, I should call it. It's just a matter of the pace that you take in reading it, if you just slow down. And in chapter 14, Romans 14, what an eye-opener that was when I first read that with, Yahushua's mind and his name. I'd been hearing teachers and Christian pastors talking about Romans 14 as an excuse to ignore the old covenant, or what they call the old covenant, the Sabbaths. They excused, like you were mentioning last night in your show, that they go to these, they jump around in verses and they say, this is this verse and look at what it's saying. And they're cherry picking verses and they're bouncing all through Scripture, but they're not reading context. And that is a horrifying way to learn Scripture, and it misleads the listeners. And Romans 14, if you read it, the whole chapter, it doesn't say anything about resting on Sabbath. This is two believers at Rome, and it was written to the assembly, actually, to be heard. It was addressed to specific people, I'm sure, but it was to be read to the whole assembly, and we're still reading it today as his assembly. And that's the amazing thing. So through their word, we're believing and obeying and heeding the things that we're reading. And what can be said? And as we read other Paul's letters, we can see why the lawless don't grasp his meanings, But that's probably the summation of my opinion about Romans.
All right. Thank you, Lou. Okay, man, we covered a lot, didn't we? Wow, a lot in Romans, man. A lot in that letter, Paul. No wonder people think it's a book. I mean, wow. It's just I don't know if I've ever read such a power-packed letter before. But anyway, great study. Thanks for everyone for attending and studying with us with the body on these letters, man. And it just wouldn't be the same without any of you. We're all in the one body for a reason. Okay, we're all here for a reason, and without you, we're missing body parts. We're not a full body, and so your presence is extremely important to the rest of the body, and extremely important to Yahushua, because you're his body, man. He wants his members together as one body. Crucial to us, and Yahushua is your attendance here. So I want to thank everyone for attending and participating. Your participation is much needed. Everything we say helps someone. Don't forget, this is recorded. Even the chat room, all the comments in the chat room is also recorded and shows up on the recording if you want to go back and go through our study on Romans and so, oh yeah, what do we say this meant? And you can go back and find it, and restudy on your own just to solidify everything that we've learned, through this amazing and critical study of the letter of Romans. So next week, 1 Corinthians. If anybody has anything, any closing comments or anything or questions, last call. Anybody? All right, Brother Lou, we're ready to part ways, brother, if you don't mind giving us the priestly blessing.
Yeah, I want to remind everybody that tomorrow night at sundown will be the full moon, and it's the 15th day of the 7th month. and it begins the first day, a rest day, for Sukkoth. So get those branches ready and stick them up. Yahuwah bless you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show kindness to you. Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom. And they will invoke my name on the children of Yisrael, and then I myself will bless them. Baruch haba b'shem Yahuwah.
Shabbat shalom, Meshach.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Have a great tabernacles. Love y'all. Bye-bye. Peace and love to everybody. So long, Natsarim, beloved of Yahuwah. So long.